Današnji video bavi se buzzwordom, to je AI, umjetna inteligencija i kako se ona odražava na muziku trenutno, kako bi se mogla odražavati u budućnosti i što mi možemo napraviti da se sljubimo sa tom umjetnom inteligencijom i iskoristimo ju za svoje svrhe. Većina ovog razgovora isječak je iz rasprave o ovoj temi između mene i mog mentora Kyleoma Lemaira i negdje ću staviti ili tu gore ili dole u opis link na playlistu gdje ću objavljivati sve ove isječke o temama o kojima smo pričali, da možete to sve popratiti i unazad i unaprijed buduće koji će izaći van. I iako je ovo tema o kojoj smo pričali zadnje u našem dosta dugom razgovoru, stavio sam ju malo napred u rasporedu, zato jer je, ja mislim, ovo najbolje vrijeme da pričamo o tome. Zašto? Zato jer u vrijeme snimanja ovog videa spremam se otići za 2 dana na Mac konferenciju u Zagrebu, koja priča o multimediji, o autorskim pravima. To je u biti kreativna konferencija, kako i sam njen naziv govori, i jako me zanima što će na toj konferenciji biti rečeno, jer je glavna tema ove godine AI. Nakon konferencije bit ću toliko slobodan da vam snimim jedan ili možda više videa o svojim mišljenjima, o drugim mišljenjima koje su izrečene na ovoj konferenciji. A do tada možete poslušati što je moj mentor imao za reći o ovoj temi i što sam ja imao za dodati ovako usput koliko se ja razumijem u svu ovu materiju. Anyway, razgovor slijedi i vidimo se poslije. One big topic that's been going around and above our heads and through our eyes and ears the last year, 2, 3, I don't know what, is AI and how it's going to affect music. And I would like to hear your, I heard, but I want my audience to hear also. You had a couple of really, really good sentences about it. How it is affecting music right now, how you think it will continue to, and is it a good thing? Because as we're recording this, we're about a week away from the biggest conference in Croatia that talks about copyright, and it's called the Multimedia Creative Conference, MAKK. So that's the main theme of the conference this year. So I wanted to have your predictions and your thoughts on that before we go there.
If you ever took a college economics course, then you're probably familiar with the concept of supply and demand. So in the concept of supply and demand, you have the supply of a good, the demand for that good, and then price is a function of those two variables. So if you have a high supply, there's lots of this good out there, and very low demand, the price will go down. If you have a very high demand and very low supply, the price skyrockets. And thereby, if you're selling that good, you want to have high demand, low supply. Right now, the demand for music is, I would say, decreasing because we have other things vying for our attention that are like more compelling than they've ever been before, which is television, rich multimedia, available everywhere on demand, and more of it than ever before. And then we have podcasts, which a lot of people use their time where they were doing something like driving or doing the dishes or walking somewhere to listen to music. But now we have audio that can replace that, where you can actually learn something and get entertained in another way. So the demand for music is probably lower than it was before. Conversely, the supply of music is greater than it's ever been before because it's so easy to create, even here, like in this room, instead of at a professional recording studio. So it doesn't cost a lot of money. Anything you need to learn in order to be able to create the music is freely available on the internet. So the supply is skyrocketed. AI is going to further increase the supply. by a factor of 100 or 1,000 or 1,000,000 actually. Because ultimately, if I want a song that fits my specific needs, I got to go find it. I got to go listen to a lot of artists, listen to a lot of songs, find stuff that I like, curate it, hoard it away, save it in my playlist. I have to do a lot of work to find music that's palatable to me. There is a future that's not too far away where I can just type a feeling or a mood or a combination of artists or just like an English phrase that describes what I want in a piece of music, and I can get it on demand, created ad hoc when I ask for it. They didn't go find it, they spat it out. If I want to listen to Elvis collaborating with Dr. Dre, I can do that. And if I want it to actually have some polka themes in it, I can do that as well. So not only will the supply increase, but the fidelity, the quality, and the personalization of that supply is going to go way up. And so, yeah, I think one of the consequences of that is that intellectual property will kind of lose all meaning, because it was already a stretch to say that I own a song, because there's so much that went into the creation of that song, so much inspiration, so much other ideas that aren't mine, that didn't originate here, that result in that song. So it's kind of weird to give me the full ownership of that song instead of considering it like a public good. The whole history of recorded music and language and culture went into the creation of that song. I didn't, it's not all me. So it was already a dubious principle to begin with, but when you have AIs readily able to do the exact same feat that I did, but better and quicker and much cheaper and for much less time, it's going to be hard to enforce intellectual property rights. It's going to be hard to, make the case that you should be, an artist even in the sense that we think about it today. I think it's going to change drastically. So yeah,
the function, the picture that we have in our heads of the artist is going to have to change.
Yeah, definitely.
Like before, it was very hard to do certain jobs. Now those jobs are done by robots, by AI tools.
Yeah.
By we now are talking, and we don't have to have a person that's standing behind me and typing like the notes.
Yeah.
Or I wouldn't have to go through the whole show. The AI will just spit out like a couple of minutes later when we finish, like this meeting summary.
Yeah.
Ovo nije greška, nego samo jedan bonus savjet. Ako gledaš ove naše videe i ne znaš otkud krenuti da to sve primjenjuješ, pozivam te da odeš na muzičar.com. Kad si na stranici, klikneš na našu besplatnu procjenu, kroz par pitanja nam možeš opisati u kojoj si fazi razvoja karijere, a mi ti šaljemo brzu dijagnozu u kojoj detektiramo što te najviše muči i dajemo ti preporuku na što da se fokusiraš kako bi napravio svoj sljedeći korak prema izgradnji održivog muzičkog biznisa. Slušali ste promidžbeni program e-muzičara, a sada nazad na vaš video.
One of the main arguments people have is that, well, I want a human to do it, so there's going to be a market for humans doing it because I want a human to do it. But like, you don't really care if a human like brought your eggs or your milk to the grocery store.
Something mundane.
Right. You don't really care. There's a lot of things where you don't care if it's a human. And I think it's only the innate humanity of artistic pursuits that make us think we're going to care if a human did it, because we don't actually have access to this vastly better option for getting, art.
It's a cool way to frame it. And maybe I think about AI as the ultimate like tool, multi-tool helper that we will have. We will have computer beam me up.
Yeah, basically. I think it's also like...
And then it will do everything it has to do to make that happen.
I think humans will become... Right now, we enjoy the productive output of other humans, and we productively output. We make things. We do things. I think that second part's going to go away. I think we're just going to be vessels for consuming entertainment. It'll be very trivial for us to want to create. I know that sounds depressing to a lot of people, but
no, I know. But it has to be, you said a good thing on your podcast. It's like acceptance and then adoption.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, and this is not going away, and you will find positive stuff in there, not just negative stuff that everyone thinks the Terminators are going to kill us in 2 years.
Yeah.
You will find that when it settles down and people learn how to use it, the same thing was with Photoshop, the same thing was with computers as a whole thing. Like you will find that you can still have special computers. You can still have people that use Photoshop better than you. People that make stuff in Photoshop that you have no idea how it came to their minds to make something like that. But it's still an interaction with a machine that's programmed to do a certain thing. The only difference is that this machine is programmed to do a lot of things.
Yeah.
But you have to tell it to do that.
I think that people have this very peculiar and particular attachment to being given credit for some achievement, where like that's an innate part of our identity. Yeah. And we really don't.
I did that.
Yeah. And we really don't want to imagine a world where it would be silly to like give us credit for anything. We don't want to imagine a world where we're unimportant in the annals of history.
Yeah.
I think I'm more comfortable with it because I kind of philosophically have arrived at this place where I already feel that that's the case. I feel like, even if I leave a legacy after I die, everyone who learned that legacy and remembers it, they're going to probably eventually die too. And eventually there will be a place in the history of humanity or this earth or the universe where like there is no record of me whatsoever. And I never really mattered. And this is kind of deep.
Wow, that's a big statement.
It's kind of one of the things you go through when you confront the fact of your own death, is that like, well,
yeah,
so what's the purpose of life? And a lot of people have eventually like, yes, I am going to die. I'm comfortable with that. But purpose of life is to leave an imprint. But like the next stage of evolution is to think, well, any imprint I leave will also eventually be gone. Oh.
There's this awesome quote from Lord of the Rings. I'm going to say it probably wrong, so anyone listening that likes Tolkien, please don't kill me. All we can do is do the best with the time that's given to us.
That's what I arrived at, was like,
yeah,
I just have, I think I want to create maximal enjoyment for myself throughout this lifetime. But then that's not the final stage, because people get there and they just go into a hedonistic treadmill where they just do like self-pleasurable short-term gratification things like sex, drugs, eating, vacations, money, like all this stuff. And it takes experience with those things to understand that actually those might be a short-term dose of happiness or enjoyment, but they're not sustainable long-term. And so over the course of my whole life, I actually have less enjoyment by going after those things than if I practice more moderation. And I think, this is getting really deep, but I think that's what religion was trying to do. Like it was a tool that humanity developed to kind of teach things that are non-intuitive. One of which is that, yeah, as it turns out, like exercise, treating each other right, getting up early in the morning, like these are pains in the ass, and they're not hedonistic, they're not short-term pleasurable, but they're necessary for maximizing lifetime enjoyment. So I just say all that to say that I'm comfortable with my importance vanishing because of AI. It's not a problem for me.
Yeah, okay.
Because I don't find myself to be that important to begin with. And I much prefer a world in which I can maximize enjoyment by enjoying all the productive output of computers and robotics and not having to struggle so much. Seems like that.
And trying to make the world a better place while you're here, not after.
Yeah. Or like, it turns out that like,
or leave something that can make it better later. But
it turns out that the making the world a better place part is actually, it's indistinguishable from maximizing lifetime enjoyment and happiness. It turns out that like it's not necessarily so important that you make the world a better place, because you probably can't to a large degree. Like, it probably has nothing to do with you. But if you act as if that's what you're trying to do, you'll probably have a better life overall, and you probably won't have many regrets when you die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And an old dead politician once said, like, think globally but act locally, because that's all you can do.
Yeah.
You can just act locally.
So I find a lot of the people who like resist this narrative that AI will probably obsolete a lot of our productive output as humans, I find that it has something to do with their need to have their life be important externally to itself. They don't want to let go of the possibility that like they leave an impact or they change the world, or that life is not necessarily, from a human perspective and how we define meaning, meaningless.
Sure.
Yeah.
If I can sum this up into a little sentence, like I really like how you said that the more AI begins creating music, the harder it will be to enforce any copyright laws, and any new laws that come up. You can make any law you want, but there aren't enough there isn't a big enough legal system that can process all the claims that would be made.
Yeah.
Like, this sounds too much like this, and I made this. Like,
Yeah.
you will probably have to have an AI judge then. And then AI would be arguing with AI why AI is ripping off the other AI.
It's also like you can enforce copyrights now because companies that are registered with your local government are putting it out. And so you can go after the companies. You can go after the person. But when a computer that I own uses an open source model to produce a piece of work that is only ever heard by my ears, there's no way you're going to enforce that. It's impossible.
Yeah. Ušli smo možda malo u filozofske rasprave, u malo možda mračniji kut toga šta bi AI trebao predstavljati i kako bi se to moglo razvijati u budućnosti. Tako da ne držite sve ovo što smo rekli kao proročanstvo, niti kao apsolutnu nekakvu istinu koja se mora desiti tako kako smo mi rekli, ali način na koji smo pristupili ovoj temi u ovome razgovoru će vam sigurno dati jako puno zamisliti. Ja sam tek na početku proučavanja svega toga što nam AI donosi, što nam može donijeti u budućnosti i kako bi to možda moglo meni olakšati posao. I u muzičkom smislu i u svakodnevno poslovnom smislu, i koje su možda tu nekakve negativne strane. Ali ta mišljenja ću još uvijek zadržati za sebe, jer se ne smatram u bilo kojoj mjeri ekspertom u svemu tome, iako neke već pravilnosti i neke stvari vidim koje sam iznio u ovom našem razgovoru, ali zanima me šta i vi mislite o tome, pa kad pogledate video, skomentirajte, recite mi vaše mišljenje, slobodno mi stavite link na neki dobar AI tool koji vi koristite, koji vama olakšava posao, ili neke toolove koje mislite da bi mogli uništiti svijet. Ok, riješili smo i tu temu. I kaj sad? Jednostavni odgovor, sljedeće pogledaj ovaj video tu negdje. Jer ja se uvijek trudim nekako ih povezati u logičke cjeline ili u nastavke, da ne moraš tražiti po našem kanalu kuda kreneš dalje. To je to, klikni dalje, pretplati se ako nisi i vidimo se.